Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Sideline to Sideline. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak, and to my right, my far right, I got the Prince of Production, Kyle Edwards.
What's going on? God, look, the team's in the playoffs. I'm happy for it. Got another game this weekend. Even happier for that. It's been a while, and yeah, just happy to be on here again talking football with y'all.
You know, a year ago, we were in a different space. I was the only one that had a team left in the playoffs, and we had just eliminated Gardy 3's Packers, and the New England Patriots were never even a thought process. Just 1 year later, the tables have turned, and the New England Patriots are just sitting there as one of the favorites to make it to the Super Bowl, to win the Super Bowl. Listen, man, it's just different. I feel different. But we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to get into the coaching carousel. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get into a lot. We're going to preview. We're going to recap. We're going to talk some shit. John Harbaugh is now the new head coach of the New York Giants. But before we get to that, I got to introduce the man in the middle. He isn't guarding the 2. He's guarding the 3, and Mr. Brett Gardy P. How you feeling tonight, Brett?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited. We got a great weekend of football ahead of us. Can't ask for much more.
I do have a new prediction on who's going to win the Super Bowl. It's a new prediction. I want to be very clear when I say this. I'm going to announce that prediction in just a few minutes. We'll get through the quarterback carousel. And, just going to be a great, I'm going to tell you who's going to win in my eyes, and we'll see how I do. I've done pretty decent, especially when my team's out of it. I do a lot better when my team's eliminated because there's no, you need clarity, right? You need to not have that homerism in you. I don't know if you guys have switched. I don't know how Kyle Edwards feels. Kyle might be still on that cloud 9, thinking about his New England Patriots. I mean, those guys, they're just good football game. Drake May looked a little rusty, not rusty, but, a little bit like it wasn't all there at the beginning. But, man, at defense, they play complementary football. They run the football. Ramondre, Trevion. The defense played well. Drake May's got to control the ball, but we'll get into it. We're going to start with the coaching carousel. John Harbaugh is the new head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. Guys, of the New York Giants. Guys, what is your first take, your opinion on John Harbaugh being the next head coach? All right, Brett, let's start with you, brother.
I personally like it for the Giants. I think when you're looking at the Giants, there's some teams that should probably go for maybe like a more young, flashy coordinator option. But when you're a team like the New York Giants, one thing that you've kind of lacked these, like almost the past decade, is stability. And I think that when we're talking about John Harbaugh, he demands the respect of his players, the locker room. I think he's going to help bring a lot of stability to the New York Giants. And I think he can really help build a winning culture. I think there's a lot of talent there. He's shown that he's able to say he can make it. I think he can make it work there. So overall, I like it. I think he's going to install a winning culture and some much needed stability to that franchise.
Kyle, what do you think about the John Harbaugh announcement?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for a Giants team where they've kind of been lacking credibility in the coaching ranks, and I agree with Brett. Like, he brings stability. He's been around. He had 18 years at the Ravens. You look at his record; he averaged like 10 wins a year. And if he did that with the Giants in 2-3 years, New York would love him. He'd be on the back page newspaper. He would be all over local TV. So I think for a guy like Harbaugh, a job like New York made a lot of sense. They have the young quarterback in Dart. Obviously, you have to get him to be a little bit less reckless with what he's playing because, he has to be available in order to be a good asset for New York. But they have pieces on defense, but they obviously still have some growth that they need on that side of the ball as well. So I think it was the right hire for them. Makes a lot of sense. And now they just have to fill in the other holes that they have on that roster to make them an actual threat, not only in the division but in the NFC in general.
So I'll start here. I see, Freddie is in the chat about the
You
number
might
one.
need to slow down on that one, though.
That's okay. I'll talk about the pluses first.
Yeah.
John Harbaugh is a great culture guy. He's going to help build that culture in that locker room. Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, Malik Neighbors. You're going to have a good group of guys in that locker room to start with. And on the defensive side of the ball, Abdul Carter, you got Brian Burns, you got sexy Dexy Lawrence. Obviously, they'll probably address that secondary in the draft and in free agency, but they have all the pieces to build around. I said this is the second or third best job open. Now, that's before Pittsburgh became open. I still don't know if Pittsburgh is a better job than New York. But I think that the New York Giants had one of the best coaching jobs to take over. And John Harbaugh is that guy that's going to bring you structure. It's going to bring you leadership. That's going to bring, I guess, a good culture to New York as far as winning. Now, the confirmation of OCDC looks like it's going to be Todd Monken and Zachary Orr. Where John Harbaugh struggles as a coach is late game execution and injuries. From a guy that goes balls to the wall all the time, he reminds me a ton of like a Tom Thibodeau, where he just over-exasperates his players and he plays them in preseason games way too early. He puts them in a situation to where, they're playing too many downs. They don't rest enough. They're playing real hard football in a sense that they're always looking for that extra hit, but it also leads to a lot of injuries. Harbaugh teams have been injured over the last 4 or 5 years. It happens a lot. There's pluses and minuses. John Harbaugh needs to get in Jackson Dart's head immediately and say, dude, you got to stop running into 265-pound linebackers. It's not something you can do if New York wants to be successful. So there is pluses and minuses to this hire for New York. There's a lot of good, but you got to be very careful with John Harbaugh. He's known to blow leads. Do you need to throw the graphic up there? And you also have to be careful with John Harbaugh in the sense that John will really manage poorly leads in the fourth quarter. Injuries and fourth quarter is what you're really looking at. You have to, and look, Ed said guilty of overcoaching. I get that. And Freddie said, let Dart be him. Yeah, Dart be him is going to be 12 games, and you're going to lose 4 or 5 of them the games he sits out. So you got to be real careful with that. Scat, let Scat be Scat, right? How'd that work out? Guy made it 6 games. Guy likes to run into people with his head first. You're not going to last long in the league doing shit like that. And I don't think Harbaugh's the guy that's going to be able to reel that in. So it's a little bit of both. I give the hire an A-, maybe a B+. I think it's a great hire. I love that New York went out and said, I want this coach, and I'm going to do everything I can to get him. They pulled out the personal jet. They flew him in. They cut out the Verizon cell phone signals so he couldn't call anyone else. I'm kidding. It's not what they did, but it's crazy. I give it an A-, B+. That's kind of where I'm at. Where do you guys grade this hire?
Yeah, I'd probably be in that B+ area. Like it makes a lot of sense. We all know his shortcomings from Baltimore. Those are the things he's going to have to guard against. Bringing the same OC and DC with him, that makes me worry a little bit, but maybe out of the shadow of the 2-time MVP in Lamar, maybe Monken gets back to what he was at Georgia. When he was at Georgia, like they were run heavy, they ran effectively, they played play action, and they won that way. He got to Baltimore and somehow lost that identity. And then for Orr, he tried to live up to McDonald with Baltimore. He couldn't. Now in New York with different pieces, maybe he can look a little better. But I think as a whole, I would agree like a B+ for the Harbaugh hire.
Yeah, so I think I'd give it an A minus.
Okay. Do you guys, if you guys were ranking the top 3 jobs that were available this offseason, Pittsburgh now being one of them, Mike Tomlin is no longer the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll talk about that in a second. But if you were ranking them, gold, silver, bronze, eliminate the other 5. Who's your gold medal job? Who's your silver medal job? Who's your bronze medal job? I think the best job that's available is the Baltimore Ravens. You walk in with Lamar Jackson, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, Derrick Henry. You walk in with a winning organization and a team that's ready to take it to the next level. I think that's got to be gold. Do any of you guys disagree with that? Kyle,
I don't like them, but I guess I gotta agree with that.
I mean, if you were a head coach and you were on the market and you had your pick of the litter, where are you going?
Right, Baltimore seems like you have the most available to start with as a base, and now you're just trying to get them to play winning football in January. So yeah, I'd agree. It is the best job on paper right now.
Brett?
No, I definitely agree with Baltimore being at 1. Just you're not gonna find many situations where you start out with say a MVP caliber talent in Lamar, Derrick Henry. There's still a lot of talent on defense, even if it didn't exactly go their way last year. So I definitely think that's the top spot.
Well, give me yours, Jory. Who are your top 3 jobs? I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know how you can rate other jobs as better than this. Like, I think they can be better. I think you can build from like with the Raiders, you're going to get Mendoza and $100 million in cap. You're going to start with Genti and Bowers and Max Crosby. They're your cornerstones, right? Like, it's like Madden. They have the faces of the franchise. Like, that's what you're going to get with the Raiders. There's a lot of different, but I would go, see, Ed, Giants the gold, Ravens the silver, Miami the bronze, then Vegas, Pittsburgh, Cleveland.
Cleveland manure. That's kind of okay.
I think the second best job that's available in this offseason, and this is just my personal opinion, is the Las Vegas Raiders. You're going to get Fernando Mendoza. You're going to be able to marry the coach to the quarterback. You have $100 million in cap space. You have a franchise running back. You have a franchise tight end. You have Max Crosby as a pillar of that community. You have Tom Brady there. I think that job is an awesome job to walk into. So I know Vegas is not high up on other people's lists. My bronze is the New York Giants. Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo, Malik Neighbors, Abdul Carter. Where are you at, Brett? What's your gold, silver, bronze?
So I kind of had the same, except I flipped the Giants and the Raiders. I had the Giants at silver and the Raiders at bronze. What worries me about the Raiders is really simple. Max Crosby, is he staying or is he going? There's a real chance that you're losing Max Crosby. There's obviously some disconnect over how they handled his injury at the end of the year. If they keep Max Crosby, then I think that is the second best job. But if Max Crosby's gone, there's really not a lot of talent to work with on that defense outside of Crosby. So that would be slightly concerning to me. So I think under the assumption Crosby's there, I think that's the second best. But take out Crosby, I'd probably flip him with the Giants.
Okay. Kyle?
I'm kind of along the lines of top of I don't know about the Raiders job because you still got Mark Davis, and it seems like they just can't get out of their own way. I mean, I agree that I probably went into this with the top 3 jobs as Baltimore because of the division and where you're starting from. I thought the Giants was a little bit underrated because they've been a mess, but they have young talent. I feel like the Tennessee job isn't terrible because you have Cam Ward and you have a lot of money to work with as well and a top draft pick. So I think whatever order you want to put those 3, I would say Baltimore, Giants, and Tennessee are the 3 best jobs. Like I said, Mark Davis scares me to work for him because they don't have an O-line. We've seen the past few years, if you don't fix your trenches, you're not winning a lot of football. And I just worry that the Raiders will ever actually get that shored up.
I think that when you look at things, and I'm a lot higher on Fernando Mendoza than most people are, but I love this, by the way. You did this yesterday. I thought it was hilarious. I know I'm Larry Bird. I get it. But tonight, I guess I got to be Kevin Nash, right? We know who Booker T is. Let's be a little racist here. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But like,
I'm Booker T.
I got to be the Kevin Nash here. Can you give me who I am? Am I the bad guy, Razor Ramon? I love it, though. Thank you very much for the comment. I don't agree with this comment as much about their offensive line. And I'll tell you why. You know who had the worst offensive line in the league 2 years ago? The Chicago Bears.
Then they invested into it. No, yeah.
And Ben Johnson got over there and like, I need an offensive line. Brought in Joe Tooney, brought in a couple guys. Now they're one of the top offensive lines in football. You have $100 million in cap space. You have a quarterback on a rookie contract. You have a running back on a rookie contract. You have a tight end on a rookie contract. You can pay to upgrade your defense and your offensive line. It's not that hard to do that. Eric Bieniemy is the running backs coach for the Bears. Seems that someone was listening to Wire to Wire the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the Raiders job. I like the Titans job. Cam Ward and $100 million cap space, Jeffrey Simmons, and they're going to get Ruben Bain Jr. I think that's the guy that's landing perfectly to them. And Ruben Bain is my favorite defensive player, not named Caleb Downs in this draft. Caleb Downs is just different. I'm telling you that right now. He's a safety, and the shitty part is I truly believe that Caleb Downs is going to be the best safety in the NFL in 2 years, maybe 3. So I never felt this strongly about a safety prospect before outside of Kyle Hamilton, and I think Caleb Downs is better. But that's besides the point. I think he ends up in Kansas City. Can you imagine that kid going to Kansas City at the 9th pick? Somebody better jump on him earlier. What's up, pal? So I'm going to go through the jobs, and I want you guys to tell me who do you think lands there. Or if you don't know, it's okay. If you just go, I really don't know. I don't have a good feel on this one. That's okay. Job openings, NFL coaching carousel. I'm going to pull them up. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin. Start there. Longest tenured coach in the NFL. I wouldn't say fired. He walked away, mutually parted. Will the Steelers regret that?
I don't think so. I think with Mike Tomlin, it was time for a new voice and maybe a new direction. So I think Mike Tomlin is still a fantastic coach. He coached up a lot of teams that had no business even being 10-7 to like winning records. But at the end of the day, I think it was about time for them to try a different direction, because at some point you want to aim higher than the first round of the playoffs. And under Tomlin, they're just ironically too good to avoid the first round, but not good enough to get past it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that, because I saw it with Belichick. He was in New England for like 20 years, and at the end, it was like you knew it was coming to an end. At some point, you just need something different. And I think with Tomlin, he walks away, or however you want to look at it, they'll probably only regret it based off of who they hire and how much of a fallback they do have.
I think this is the easiest hire in the coaching carousel. And the only way I don't think they get him is I think if Tom Brady calls up Brian Flores and goes, Brian, we want you to coach Vegas, and we're going to make Brian Dable your offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Brian Flores, who already has a history in Pittsburgh, goes back to Pittsburgh to be their head coach. He was the first person they requested to interview for the job. I think Brian Flores goes back to Pittsburgh, and I think it'll be scary to see what that defense can do in a Flores system. I think that black and blue division turns right back into the black and blue division. You guys have any predictions for the Pittsburgh Steelers job?
Say I'm not gonna lie. You kind of sold me on Flores, so I kind of like Flores for the Steelers job. It almost feels like for a team that's been primarily built on some really good defenses in their past history, he just kind of fits the culture there.
I completely agree with you. The three highest odds for that job are Chris Shula, Brian Flores, and Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame, which, by the way, would not be a bad hire. I don't think. I like Marcus Freeman.
Is he not staying at Notre Dame, or is that just for right now?
NFL calls. And even Nick Saban
True.
left for the NFL for half a year until he realized he couldn't do it. Hang.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Kyle, who you got for the Steelers job?
I mean, look, I've said if you were going to probably move off of Harbaugh or Tomlin, Flores would make too much sense at either spot. I do think because of his connection in Pittsburgh, if you're going to move off of Tomlin, go get a guy that knows that area, knows that culture, and would kind of keep up what Tomlin's established. I think Flores makes way too much sense.
I do too, but I find it very interesting that when I look at the odds for this next job, it's Tennessee Titans is the next on this list. I don't see the person I think will get hired. And that's normally scary for me. But when I look at the Titans, they've casted a wide net. They've been interviewing Kyle, Brett, Key, Jory. I don't know if you answered your phone. They're interviewing people. They're interviewing the Clapper. I think the best person for that job is Brian Dable. Now, Brian Dable is interviewing for the offense coordinator of Philadelphia Eagles. I find that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best person to be the head coach of the Tennessee Titans and help develop Cam Ward is none other than Brian Dable. Now, the odds-on favorites are Matt Nagy, Mike Tomlin, Kevin Stefanski, and Mike McCarthy. I think Cliff Kingsbury is another interesting one. He's fifth.
I'll say, you know what's funny? I've seen people kind of balk at the idea of Mike McCarthy going to the Tennessee Titans, but I wouldn't hate it. Mike McCarthy's a guy who, if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, probably not the right coach for you, but the one thing he has done a great job at throughout his career is developing quarterbacks. Say, he helped develop Aaron Rodgers. He went over to Dallas, and Dak Prescott had some of the best years of his career under Mike McCarthy. I actually think out of the names that were listed, there's some interesting ones, but I almost think that Mike McCarthy has the best track record at developing young QBs. So honestly, if the Titans went Mike McCarthy, I wouldn't hate it.
You should clip that, Brett, because I think that if that hits, that clip is going to hit like fire. I don't mind Mike McCarthy. My pick's Brian Dable, but I'm not far off from Mike McCarthy. I think this next coaching hire needs to be 100% a Cam Ward hire.
Yeah.
Kyle, where are you at on this one?
I mean, to be honest with you, I hadn't thought of Dable. Dable would make a lot of sense. He worked with, Josh Allen, kind of a big quarterback, mobile, big arm. Cam Ward has a big arm. It would be a Cam hire. I agree. Whoever they take, got to be somebody that gets the best out of Cam and helps him develop. Like, don't bring in some. I feel like that's a job you don't want to necessarily get somebody where it's like their first bite at the head coaching apple, because too much can go wrong. I wouldn't hate them going kind of safe. I think Dayball or McCarthy would be a safe pick that makes a lot of sense for Cam, and Cam is their number one asset right now. So I think it's got to be either one of those two. The Nagy part, I guess it's only because of the connection with Borgonzi in the front office, I guess, but they could do better than Nagy.
It looks like the next job, the Atlanta Falcons, looks like it's a 2-horse race based on odds. I could be wrong here, but it looks like it's between Kevin Stefanski and Clint Kubiak. Kyle, I know you're local to that area. What are you hearing?
I mean, Atlanta was like getting their hopes up for Harbaugh, which I was like, that was never going to happen. But they can dream, right? Stefanski would be interesting in that Stefanski's gotten a bad rap because of the Cleveland situation. But if you look at that situation, not a lot of coaches would thrive when you're paying like 6-7 quarterbacks to not produce for you, and offensively you were down to a 3rd-round pick in Gabriel and a 5th-rounder in Shador, and you're trying to make that work. So I think Stefanski as an offensive guy could work. And if you're looking at Atlanta, what's the one thing we always say? How is their offense like not dominating when you have Bijan Robinson? I mean, you use the high pick on Kyle Pitts. I wasn't a fan of it, but with his skill set and Drake London, who's shown to be kind of just a steady, productive wide receiver, they can't be going 8 and 9 in back-to-back years with that kind of talent. And I think Stefanski could get the most out of it. I mean, I predicted, what's his name? Kingsbury somewhere else, so I would probably go with Stefanski for Atlanta.
Brett, what do you like here?
Yeah, I was kind of on the Stefanski train when it came into this job. At the end of the day, we've seen him kind of be able to assemble the right people around him. He's been very good at that especially when it comes to defensive coordinator. You've seen him be able to coach up some really great defenses in Cleveland. Now he's got to figure out who's going to run the offense for him. But from what I saw in Cleveland, especially when they had a healthy Nick Chubb, this is a guy that liked to run the ball and establish physicality on the ground. And I think that's probably what Atlanta needs. Next year, they got to be able to control the clock and keep their defense off the field for long stretches. So I think Kevin Stefanski makes a ton of sense.
Do you guys think Michael Penix is the guy?
No.
But
I don't either.
I mean, he took him like 8th overall, though. That's the crazy part.
I'll never forget that draft. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the watch along. I'll never forget the clip. I'll never forget the reaction. And I was dead right so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's a project. It's been a project. Not working out, in my opinion. I like Stefanski for that job because I think like my coaching carousel is simple, right? I like Stefanski for that job. I like Mike McDaniel for Cleveland. I think that's where he'll end up. Yeah. He's like one of one there. Like a lot of people are marking him there. What are your thoughts on Cleveland? Any change there? Because I know where Jesse Minter's going. I see you in the chat, Tapa. I got you for Jesse Minter.
I think Mike McDaniel would make a ton of sense in Cleveland. I think you're running right now with a lot of young quarterbacks that really would benefit from somebody who can schematically help get wide receivers open. Because watching Shador, Dylan Gabriel, they're not ready to, kind of throw wide receivers open quite yet. They're not seeing the windows quite yet. So I think you get an offensive, guy like Mike McDaniels in there to scheme up some plays and kind of help them in the sense of, getting the ball out and, getting guys wide open. I think that'd be a great fit to try to help develop these young quarterbacks.
Yeah, I can agree with Brett 100%. Like, that seems like another job where, like, Flores to Pittsburgh, like McDaniel to Cleveland kind of seems like it makes way too much sense.
I just don't know if Mike McDaniel's offense will work in cold weather. It hasn't worked in Miami. And even when he was the offensive coordinator in San Fran, it didn't work in cold weather. But I guess we'll find out. I just don't know if it's a cold weather spot. I think he's too frail. Like, if I'm being honest with you, I don't know if he wants to stand on that sideline in 13-degree weather. I just don't think he's that guy. But just my opinion. I think McDaniel will get hired. I just don't think it'll work out well. Jesse Minter, Baltimore Ravens. You're welcome. Last night I told you the first coach will come off the board. It'll be John Harbaugh, and he'll be signed with the New York Giants this morning.
Yeah.
Today, I'm telling you the next coach coming off the board is Jesse Minter to the Baltimore Ravens. He's a local kid to Baltimore. I think he goes back home. I think this is it's a perfect fit. He's a defensive guy. You don't have to worry about someone running the defense. He can bring in an offensive guy to work with Lamar specifically. He's young. He's going to really help that defense a ton with Roquan and Kyle Hamilton. I love that situation. No, he doesn't get a third chance. And I'll talk about this in a minute.
No, I agree with that. Minter, like with each passing day, it's like, yeah, just get ready to hear that announcement that Minter takes the Ravens job. Now that's where I kind of had Kingsbury when all this was first started and Harbaugh like first left. I was like,
Old
Baltimore would be the type to get Kingsbury because it dealt with Jaden Daniels to go put him with Lamar, but Minter being a part of that kind of Baltimore pipeline, yeah, that's a division where they kind of value that a little bit more.
I got the next two jobs for you, Brett. Brett, who you like? Do you like Minter in Baltimore?
Oh, yeah, I think you get a defensive guy in there. I think the defense needs more of a boost than the offense at this point. It makes all sense in the world.
I have the next two jobs written up for you. It's done. Which one do you want next? And by the way, I don't care about Arizona. We'll do Arizona last. This thing. That's the worst job by far.
I mean, that is the job that seems like it's going to take a while to probably fill.
Dude, the Arizona Cardinals, and this is what's amazing about the Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals, like a top hire is Vance Joseph. Are we out of our friggin' mind? I have the next two jobs though. I know where they're going. I know which one you want next.
Actually, what jobs left?
Well, you got the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, yeah.
You
Let's
got
go
the
Miami.
Raiders.
Let's go Miami.
Miami Dolphins makes too much sense. There's a homegrown kid that's interviewing for jobs. I think he's the son of one great Don Shula.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Shula. Why would he not go there? Why? It makes too much sense. What do they lack? Toughness. What will Chris Shula bring? Toughness. Chris Shula is going to help them a ton. I love that setup. I really, really do. And I think the reason you haven't seen it announced, I love Chris Shula. I've been a fan of him for a while. He's defensive coordinator at Rams. He made wine out of water there. I think Chris Shula goes into Miami and develops another winning culture for the Miami Dolphins. And, him being an heir apparent of Don Shula, I think it's definitely a move.
Yeah, it almost seems like now that Harbaugh's picked his job.
I apologize. Someone's going to beat me up for that. I said suck.
But it does seem like now that Harbaugh's kind of picked his destination, a lot of the other ones make a lot of sense of who's going there now. Yeah,
right.
Shula in Miami makes too much sense.
No, I think it sounds like a great marriage. Definitely love to see Shula go to Miami. It sounds like a great fit for him, honestly.
I'll shut up. Who do you guys got going to Vegas?
I could see Vegas kind of going for a hot shot hire. Somebody new, maybe say Tom Brady hires Joe Brady. Meeting of the Bradys. That'd be interesting.
Tom Brady hires Joe Brady. Brady connection.
The Brady Bunch.
Facebook connection went out. What else is new? I just reconnected it. So it should be up in a second. You know me. I'm on top of it, Jor. Appreciate you.
I'll throw out a name. How about Robert Saleh?
I got a name for you guys. I think you'll love it. I think you're going to love it. I think the perfect guy to marry to Fernando Mendoza and Ashton Genty is Clint Kubiak. You talking about a guy that went to New Orleans, revamped that offense, went to Seattle, revamped that offense. I absolutely love Clint Kubiak to Las Vegas and marry the young offensive coordinator to the young head coach that's coming, young quarterback. Sure, he wants Clint. I get it. I'd want Clint too.
That is true. She has been on Clint for weeks
I
now.
gave you Dable, Jory. I thought you liked Dable.
Clint Kubiak would be a good hire for the Raiders. That's the thing. Like I just said, Harbaugh now going with the Giants. These other teams, it's kind of laid out who they should get. Now we know some of these teams like to get too cute and overthink it, and we'll go. And I'm sure we'll be here in a couple of weeks and look at a hire and go, how could they have possibly messed that up? And not to say the Raiders might be that team. It probably would be Arizona because I agree. I don't know what Arizona, where they should lean or anything like that. And I'm almost afraid that Arizona will get a guy like Saleh or somebody that we really like and we'll go down there and they'll just ruin them. And I would hate to see something like that.
I truly believe Mike Tomlin sits this year out. I think he takes a step away for a year. I think he's the hottest head coach going in next year. But I truly believe he takes a year to sit this one out.
I wouldn't be shocked if that was just it for Mike Tomlin. I wouldn't be shocked if he just retired.
Why?
Because but they thought that with Bill Cowher. Remember, Bill Cowher went to TV, and they're like, it was just a couple of years, and he'll be back in coaching, and then he never went back.
It just seemed like Mike Tomlin's a guy that maybe it's just in my head that it'd be weird to see him anywhere but Pittsburgh.
It is different for Pittsburgh because they never coached anywhere else. Chuck Noll, Bill Brian. Sorry, Jesus Christ, Bill Cowher. Yeah, you're right. It's not a crazy thing to say. God, Brett, my fault.
No, you're good. I'd say it just feels like that's it would just feel weird, and then not to mention, since he just stepped away, the Steelers would still own his rights. So if he does come back, now you have to work out a trade, and like kind of like with Sean Payton with the Broncos and the Saints sort of situation. So, but if I'm Mike Tomlin, I don't know. You made a lot of money. You have TV deals lined up right there. A lot less stressful than being on the sidelines every week. Like, if I were him, I would just ride off into the sunset.
I think he'll come back coaching. I really do. But I understand your thought process. The last is the Arizona Cardinals, and worst job. They have who are the cornerstone pieces for the Arizona Cardinals?
Trey McBride.
Period.
Literally. I don't know. Buda Baker's like 40, so.
Buda Baker's like 75 years old.
Yeah.
They've done a really tough job there. So they can get Kyler off Call of Duty, maybe. I don't know. But all right, let's get into the previews. We're gonna be quick. Recaps and then previews. I do want to make an announcement, gentlemen. I do have a new Super Bowl prediction.
Okay.
I listen, guys. I watched Buffalo last week. I watched Philadelphia last week. They were my Super Bowl predictions, and I don't see either one of them making it. Obviously, Philadelphia being eliminated, we can't see them make it. But Buffalo, I'll explain in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy won me a lot of money in fantasy football this year. So much money that I went out. I didn't go out. A friend went out and purchased me a jersey because he won me so much fantasy football money. Gene's new Super Bowl champion prediction. Puka Nacua and the Los Angeles Rams. I think Rams Patriots sounds like a fun Super Bowl to watch. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's say before the playoffs started, my non-homer pick was Seahawks Patriots. Probably gonna say I'll stick with it, but honestly, low key, I'm really hoping the Bills win one this year. That'd be awesome.
Listen, Puka Nacua. Now, I would love the Bills to win. I just don't. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's recap quickly.
Yeah.
Rams Panthers. Start that game, Puka Nacua. Broke up the game-losing interception. Absolutely ends the game if the Carolina Panthers intercept that ball. He had 2 touchdowns, 10 receptions, 110 yards. Puka Nakua. I think that's a perfect starting point for the Rams to go into Carolina and win. Rams, Panthers, quick thoughts.
Liked what I saw from the Panthers. Liked what I saw from Bryce Young. Now he has to kind of use this game and propel it into next year. Because I do think in that division, if you want to, kind of pencil in lightly the Panthers winning that division, you can. I agree with you. I think for the Rams, it was a good wake-up call for them. And I obviously love to see if that plays out this week. But I just want to give Panthers their shout out. They played really well.
I appreciate this. I think the Panthers appreciate the shout out. But I think the first round of NFL quarterbacks that lost are all, and Brett will hate me for this, just need to figure out ways to win. And look, at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts gets a little bit of a pass because he won the Super Bowl. But that game's on Jalen Hurts just as much as the Jacksonville game's on Trevor Lawrence, just as much as the Carolina game's on Bryce Young, just as much as the Packers game is on Jordan Love. Not completely. I don't think any of those guys, well, Jalen didn't play great. The point being is I don't think any of those guys played awful. But when I look at those football games, they all had something in common. They all ended with a defensive stop. They all had the ball with a chance to win the football game and didn't. We'll get into Packers Bears now. And to me, it's baffling that Jeff Hafley is getting interviews for head coaching jobs. Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve them. He did a great job with that Packers defense, but you can't allow 25 points in the fourth quarter. Just can't do it. And Brett, I'm sure you'll talk about special teams, missing kicks and wide receivers dropping footballs. But when you look at Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young and even the what-if guy, Justin Herbert, it's just more to be desired. Now, obviously, I don't put Herbert in the same category as the other three guys. And Hurts won a Super Bowl, so I don't. But the three guys that just had the ball with a chance, Love, Lawrence, Young, they all look good during the game. They all put up plenty of points. Brett, the floor is yours. Let's debate.
Yeah, so I think this weekend was almost a perfect example of quarterbacks, not being a win-loss stat. That's something I said on a reel on Wired on the page.
Yep.
I think Bryce Young is a good example of that. I think he did play well enough to win, but unfortunately, sometimes you can play well enough to win, but it just doesn't work out for you, right? I think Tom Brady played well enough to beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, but it turns out Nick Foles and company had other ideas. So I think there are situations where you can play well enough to win, but the result not go your way. And I think we saw that twice. I think that happened with Bryce Young and the Panthers. I think they played well, and I think Bryce Young played well enough to win. When you come in and score on that Rams defense that's been great all year, like you did, I think you made enough plays. It's just some unfortunate defensive play calling right at the end, put the offense in a tough situation, and that was kind of it. When it comes to Jordan Love, like I said, at the end of the day, if you want to catch the full rant, you can also check my reel on that. But
I love the rant, by the way. I love it.
I can't put that final drive on Jordan Love. There's just too much that went wrong that he had absolutely no control over. Like you start on the last drive, you had a Romeo Dobbs drop, but that's whatever. But then Jaden Reed drops a pass that would have put him inside the 20 with one timeout. But then Love completes one to Golden on a 4th and 7, which LaFleur uses the timeout with 44 seconds left, which I didn't agree with. And then Runyon gets hurt, which takes a 10-second runoff, which takes another possible 2 plays off the board. And then Christian Watson, he gets a beautiful ball thrown to him, but unfortunately, he just didn't make a play on it. I don't know exactly if he just saw it late, but it's a play that he normally makes, but he just didn't make a play on this one. I think this is a situation with Jordan Love where he did make enough plays to win. He put them in position to score 7 extra points between field goals and extra points. And even on the last drive, he was dropping dime after dime, but he just couldn't hold on to it. Do I think there's some things he's got to work on? Sure. I look back on a 3rd and 2 where he had a bunch of green grass in front of him, but he didn't take it. He just kept his eyes downfield looking for a pass. I think he's got to work on just taking the yards in front of him at times. But I think when it comes to specifically Saturday's game, I don't think you can really put that one on him because I think he did more than enough to win. And it felt like he should have. It felt like he was the best quarterback on that field for 4 quarters. But unfortunately, once again, the end of the day, the desired result didn't go his way, and everything just kind of imploded. So
I think Jordan Love was incredible in the first half. In the second half, I don't agree. And right, you can tell me he did enough to win the game. I watched the second half just like you did. 3 and out, -2 yards. 3 and out, 8 yards. 5 plays, 13 yards. 3 plays, -10 yards. I know that there's drops involved. I know play calling is involved. I know that Bears defense is a shell. You watch what the Rams do to them this week. They're a shell. You can't score 6 points in the second half. And if you want to talk about McManus, that's fine. Missing a kick. I understand that. Missing 2 kicks. I understand that. But the part that I don't understand is not scoring touchdowns in that game in the second half. And I think that they scored that one touchdown. They go up 27-16, and that was great. And then McManus misses the extra point. But if they make that field goal, the game's tied. They make that field goal, they have an opportunity to kick a field goal to win the game. Sure. There's a lot of what ifs. I don't want Jordan Love to turn into Justin Herbert when we talk about this game. What if? What if? 6 points is not enough.
I'll say at the end of the day, too. So I want to explain this in a way that makes sense.
Sure.
I don't think that Matt LaFleur is a bad play caller, but I think he struggles with situational play calling in the same sense like a John Harbaugh does.
Yeah.
His run plays, I think he psychs himself out at times because you watch his run plays in the second half when he's trying not to lose the game, and they get very predictable. Inside zone, inside zone, inside zone, inside runs when they're clearly stacking 8 in the box. I think that part of the struggles in the second half were MLF just kind of taking his foot off the gas, which we've seen him do that for 7 years. We've seen him do this multiple times this year where he tries to play not to lose and then starts panicking, then tries to heat the offense back up. It's a little too late. I think MLF's a good coach. I think he's a good play caller. But sometimes when it comes to managing the flow of the game and situational play calling, I think he struggles. And sometimes he just gets too conservative and he tries too hard not to lose. And I think that's kind of what we saw where the game plan became predictable. It put the offense, which in the first half, it was a lot of 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5s. All of a sudden in the second half, hey, it's 3rd and 8, it's 3rd and 9. They're backed up. So I do think that when it comes to MLF, I don't want to sit here and say it's all on MLF. But I do think that's something I want to see him improve on after watching him this season is just situational play calling and managing the game flow better because even the drive before the last one, he wasted 2 timeouts and he still couldn't decide on a play and we got a delay of game coming out of a timeout. So it's one of those things that I want to be clear. MLF is not a bad coach and he's not a bad play caller, but when he tries to be the OC head coach and manage the flow of the game and then he tries not to lose, it just turns into a mess at the end of games. And I think you saw a lot of that, which put us into a lot of unfavorable situations in the second half, which weren't there in the first half.
Okay. I'm all ears. I'm all listening to you. I hope that one day I find someone that will defend me the way you defend Jordan Love. And I love that. There's no issues there. Kyle, be the voice of reason and let Brett know that winning matters. I'm kidding, Brett. I'm joking.
I mean, look, I agree with Brett. That sequence that he just brought up where you call the timeout, then the delay a game, and then we also saw a lot of them getting the snap off with 1 on the play clock because Jordan Love is doing a lot of checks and all this kind of stuff. It seemed like they made it more complicated than it needed to be as Chicago was kind of building more and more momentum and closing the gap. So I think it's a game that they can learn from. Look, I agree. I agree with Eugene. Like, you don't want Jordan Love to turn into Herbert, where like every time Herbert loses, it's like, yeah, but remember, this wasn't in his favor, or that, or that, or that. Even though they're talented players, like at a certain point, they do have to kind of rise above it a little bit. And it's hard for me to look at Jordan Love and have, he had 4 touchdowns and no picks and go, yeah, he was the problem. Well, part of the problem, not the problem, because the defense had a lot to do with them losing that game. But I feel like if you asked Jordan Love, he would probably tell you there was plays that he could have made that he probably wished he did. The 32, like Brett said, I remember that play, and I was like, Jordan, just take off. Get the first down, reset the downs and kind of get going. But he tried to make a big play because he has a big arm, and then it's now a 3 and out. Like, stuff like that, you hope he learns as he becomes more of a vet with that team.
I will bring this last thing up with the Packers, and then we're going to get into some previews because I've already talked at nauseam about the Philadelphia Eagles. You've heard it on the morning show, and we're a little bit behind. I will ask you this, Brett. Going a year in, because I remember saying this on draft night, but I'll say it again. Do you believe Matthew Golden, A, is the right pick, or B, is the number 1 receiver?
Yeah, no, I do. I think what we saw with Matthew Golden this year is it's just kind of the Packer way and how they bring young receivers. We saw the same thing with guys like Devontae Adams. They slowly worked in guys like Jordy Nelson, and I think we saw plenty of flashes from Golden. I think next year you're going to see a bigger role. I don't see us re-signing Romeo Doubs, so I think you're going to run next year with a trio of Watson, Reed, and Golden as your top 3 receivers. And I think Matthew Golden could very easily lead the Packers in receiving yards next year, and I think he will.
I think Matthew Golden is Jaden Reed 2.0. I said that on draft night. I don't see many things they do differently. I think they're the same receiver. I don't think he was worth the first-round grade. I don't think he was a first-round pick. I think the Packers made that pick because the draft was in Green Bay, and they knew they would get the best eruption from drafting a wide receiver in the first round. I hate saying it that way. I think he's good, not great. I have a higher grade on Luther Burden, which isn't turning out to be great to begin with, but that's kind of where I'm at.
No, fair enough.
Patriots, Texans. Both teams won games off the back of their defense. They're playing each other this weekend in Foxborough. Give me your prediction on the game, Kyle, and how do you think it goes?
Honestly, I think it's going to look a lot like the Patriots-Chargers game. Both defenses, I think, are going to stand up and make it difficult on both offenses, and it's going to take probably one play. I guess in the Chargers game, it was the Drake May throw to Hunter Henry, a play like that to kind of separate the two. I think Thayer Mumford is a name to look out. He's a extra O lineman, which you're probably like, who cares? But I think against Houston, they're probably going to have to use him a lot to help kind of, protect Drake May and create some running lanes for Stevenson. I have the Patriots winning this one. I think it's going to be a very entertaining defensive battle. I think it's going to probably be like a 16-13 type of game. Patriots win.
Brad, who you like this one?
Well, it's I like the Patriots, and it's one of those games where the Texans, they got to execute better than they get against the Steelers. That offensive execution at times was atrocious with all the fumbles and miscommunications. Can't have that in Foxborough. Patriots are going to get lucky playing against people calling play action on 4th and 9. That being said, it's going to be a fun, close, low-scoring game. I think this is going to be a Patriots victory. I'll give it like a 16-10 win.
The Texans are the Chargers on steroids. That's who they are. They're a better defensive team. They're a better offensive team. They're less injured. But they're still injured. And they're still flawed. This is the only game I'm absolutely sure of outside of from the AFC. I love the Patriots in this game. I think the Patriots, Nico Collins is not going to play. And I love the Patriots.
Trending that towards playing, yeah.
I love the Patriots in this football game. I just don't think Houston has enough to go into New England and win this game. I will say this. My favorite player in the league is on the Houston Texans.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the New England Patriots, you better know where Will Anderson Jr. is at every moment of the game.
Yep.
I think he's the next best player in the defensive side of ball. When this group of Myles Garrett and Micah, the next wave, Will Anderson Jr. is him. I got the Patriots. I think it's going to be rather comfy, like 22-10, something like that.
Okay.
Next game on the docket. We'll stay in the AFC. I go from the only game I'm sure of to the only game I'm not sure. Guys, if you watched, I picked the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl. And then I watched them play Jacksonville. And Nick Bonito and arrested Broncos defense is going to hit him harder than Jacksonville did. Terrell Shavers and Gabe Davis were both placed on season-ending IR. To Joshua Palmer. I don't know Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman and Brandon Cooks. I don't know how the Buffalo Bills can move the ball efficiently and effectively versus the Broncos. I don't have much faith in Bo Nix, but as long as Bo Nix does not turn the football over, I don't see a way the Broncos lose this game. I like the Broncos to win this game. I think it'll be something ugly like 23-13, but another ugly football game. I would like to say the Bills. I really would. My football mind says it doesn't make sense. Brett, who do you like in this one?
Ooh, I think this one is going to be a really low-scoring, ugly game. I think what's going to stop the Broncos is the Broncos. This is an offense that has been wildly inconsistent all year. And on one hand, you could say they're well-rested. On the other hand, they haven't played in a couple weeks. This is an offense that looked rusty when they were playing every week. I'm really worried about the Broncos getting off to a slow start. And I think the Broncos defense will hold, but even if, let's say, the Bills jump up to a 10-0 lead while the Broncos are still figuring things out, that might be enough. This might just end up being one of those games where it's like 13-10 in a just brutal, low-scoring game. I got the Bills. I think both defenses will muck it up, but I think Josh Allen will put on his Superman cape and find a way to get this one done.
No one circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills. Kyle, who you liking this one?
I mean,
I know you're
said
rooting
on the
for them. You
ball.
got to be rooting for Buffalo. You have to be rooting for Buffalo.
I mean, yeah, AFC Championship in New England would be nice.
100%.
But I'm actually going with Denver. I just think with the injuries that Buffalo has at the wide receiver position, like you're going to need Keon Coleman, like the guys you said. You also need Kincaid to kind of do some work over the middle. I think my problem is with that Denver defense, like you said, I think they're going to get after Josh Allen. And as long as they don't, get undisciplined and let Josh Allen just run out and just run wild and, create the running game for them, I think Denver takes this one. My only worry, James Cook. Because James Cook only had 16 touches against Jacksonville. I think Buffalo needs to increase that number because James Cook is just that good. But I'll take Denver in a low-scoring one as well. Probably 17-14.
Here's a name to look out for in this game. A guy I think that'll be the MVP of the game when it's all said and done. R.J. Harvey. I think he's going to run the ball efficiently and effectively.
I think somebody can do it. I kind of wish J.K. Dobbins was there because he probably would have ran wild, but Harvey has to kind of step into that role.
We move over to the NFC. In two games that I could literally write down now and tell you 100% they're going to win. I'll start with Seattle Saturday versus a beaten, battered, the worst team in the playoffs. Even last week, the worst team in the playoffs, the San Francisco 49ers. a team that literally has no one playing. They have no linebackers. They have no linemen. No, George Kittle's out. Christian McCaffrey's all but hurt. And they're going to go into Seattle and beat a team that just smacked them around in San Francisco 2 weeks ago. No chance. No chance. Seattle 35, 49ers 8. I don't know how. I don't know how. Seattle's going to win this game by a lot.
Does the Darnold oblique injury matter?
No. I don't. Kyle, I'm not trying to be an asshole. Jalen Milroe could play quarterback for Seattle and win this game.
No, I agree. I think Seattle wins it. I think the only way, like, San Francisco's going to have to, like, pull out some trick plays and stuff that Seattle hasn't seen and try to catch them off guard. But defensively, all Seattle's really going to do, they'll drop back, they'll force Purdy to probably like dump it in the flat, then gang tackle, and they'll just be fine with that. And if the Niners can't stop Walker, Charbonnet in the running game, I think you have to force Darnold to show you that he's okay with the oblique injury. But if you can't do that, then yeah, I think Seattle wins this one comfortably. I have Seattle winning too.
I have Seattle winning by 100. Brett?
I think this game will be fun in the sense that obviously the 49ers are going to be desperate. So I think you'll see them just empty the clip. All the trick plays, fake punts, whatever they have up their sleeve, I think you'll see it in this game. I don't think it'll be enough. I think this will be like a 26-13 Seattle victory. At some point, like, talent matters. And while the 49ers have talent, they're all on injured reserve. So I think they're just kind of out of bodies and out of luck. If they prove me wrong, that would be truly incredible. But I think that going into Seattle, just too tall of a task.
And then the game that I guess everyone's looking forward to, because it might be the highest scoring game, but now it might snow, is the LA Rams going into Chicago and taking on the Bears. I'm not saying that the Bears won't keep this game close. I'm not saying that the Bears won't be able to run the ball effectively. I'm not saying that the Bears won't be tough. But I watched the LA Rams play in the snow last year at Philadelphia, and that defense looked really good in the snow in Philadelphia last year. And Matt Stafford played in Detroit. Puka Nacua is a BYU kid. A lot of their team comes from cold weather areas, and they don't have any issues playing in the cold. I just don't believe it. I don't think the defense of Chicago, who is also falling apart at the seams, they lost TJ Edwards for the year last game. I don't think they can contain Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams, Matthew Stafford. And I think the Rams offense will be too much for the Bears defense. And I have more confidence in Matthew Stafford getting it done than I do Caleb Williams. I got the Rams in a highly contested 35-27 comfortable game.
I do think the Rams are going to win this one. But this is something I'm going to give the Bears a ton of credit for. Anytime I think they're about to get blown out, anything I think they're down and out, they just keep coming back. And I think we'll see it one more time, but I think they'll come back. I think this will be a really intense back and forth game. And I think the Rams do win it. I think it'll end up being a win on a walk-off field goal at like 32-30. I just can't count out the Bears. And at the end of the day, every time I try to do that, they find a new way to impress me. Caleb Williams, have yourself a round of applause. You are the Bears franchise quarterback. But I do agree. At the end of the day, I trust Matthew Stafford and company to get this game done, even in the cold weather.
I know this sounds crazy. Kyle, there's a player that if they win in this game, they will have played in the NFC Championship game for 4 straight years. Do you know who that player is, Kyle?
Gardner Johnson.
I feel like winning follows that kid, man. And I know a lot of teams get rid of him quick because he's a bad, he's got, I don't know. It's a loose cannon. But, man, he just impacts winning. And I wish more teams understood that because winning follows CJ Gardner-Johnson. I don't think it's enough this week versus the Rams. Kyle, who do you like in this one?
I mean, I think if the Bears can kind of pressure Stafford the way the Panthers did, they probably have a chance. I'm like Brett. There's been a lot of times I've wanted to count out Chicago, and they do this fourth quarter thing where it's just like if they're close, for whatever reason, they find ways to win it. And I think that they may actually follow the same script in this one. I'm taking the Rams, but I think it's close. I don't think it's a comfortable win for them. I agree. I think if it was a different team, the weather might be a bigger factor, but Stafford played all those years in Detroit. Devontae's coming from Green Bay. Puka's in BYU. Like, it's not going to really bother them, and they just played like last year against the Eagles. So a different team, different situation. I'd pick the Bears, but I gotta take the Rams in this one.
You know, you look at the way everything breaks down in this NFC playoff or any AFC playoffs, just the NFL playoffs as a whole. We were an offensive league with Mahomes and Purdy, like, and you know, even the Jalen Hurts team last year, and the Buffalo Bills and the Ravens. This is slightly turning to a defensive-led league. 4 of the top 5 statistical defenses this year, the Texans, the Seahawks, the Broncos, and the Patriots, are still alive in this NFC play or NFL playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You could possibly have a Super Bowl between the Patriots or the Texans and the Seahawks, or the Broncos and the Seahawks. And you would have an absolute defensive struggle. Defenses are on the comeback, gentlemen. I sit here and I ask you one last time. What is your final Super Bowl prediction going into this week? Bro, I know you read it out earlier, but read it to me again.
Yeah, I got you. I'm going Patriots versus Seattle. And you know what? I'm going to pick some irony. Sorry, Kyle, but I'm going to go with Seattle wins the Super Bowl on a walk-off rushing touchdown. Let's correct the mistake of 2014 a decade later.
Okay.
That would be cinematic.
Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, I'm kind of in the same boat. The two teams I've been high on, Seattle, and obviously my team, the Patriots. But if I was to take the Patriots out, I'd probably go like Seattle, Denver. Because I agree with you. I think defenses, running games are like making a comeback. I think it's good for the game. You know, I've seen some people like hate it, like whatever. But I think Seattle does make it out of the NFC, and I think it's either Patriots or Broncos. I'll go with the Patriots, obviously.
I think the best game remaining is the game that we're going to get. Boston versus LA one more time. This isn't
a good matchup.
This isn't Celtics Lakers. This is Patriots Rams. I like the Rams to beat the Patriots. That's where I'm at. I think Drake May versus Matthew Stafford could be a little bit of a passing the torch of a guy, Matt Stafford, that's got all the arm in the world, passing it down to a guy that's got all the arm in the world. You know, it's funny, when you look at Drake May, I'll be the first to admit, I didn't see it. I see it now. He looks like a little bit more mobile version of Matthew Stafford. People said Josh Allen. I never seen Josh Allen.
That was more. I think it was more because of his height. I think a lot of people who have seen May play more and more, they do compare him to Stafford a lot.
I love him as a little bit more mobile version of Matthew Stafford, and I think that would be the funnest Super Bowl to watch.
Yeah,
But
McVay, Vrabel, McDaniels. I wouldn't hate it.
Gonna be a fun one. Love it. Thank you guys for tuning in to Sideline to Sideline. Gentlemen, any final thoughts?
Yeah, Sam, can't wait to see how the rest of this playoffs plays out. You know, at the end of the day, of course, disappointed how it ended for the Packers, but we'll be back next year. Ain't even worried about it. Just want some good football to finish out the year.
You're going to get it. Kyle, any final thoughts?
Look, fun show, and you'll see me again on here tomorrow with Key and Jory. We'll discuss the playoffs as well, so make sure you tune into that. And look, you already know Jory and Key will bring an extra element as well. So tune in tomorrow night for Passion and Precision.
I'll end the show by saying one last thing about the Philadelphia Eagles, since we didn't talk about them tonight. Firing Kevin Petullo makes my heart warm. The Philadelphia Eagles should take and strip away Nick Sirianni's ability to promote an offensive coordinator ever again. Brian Dable was asking the Philadelphia front office how much autonomy he would have as the offensive coordinator. I think it's a good sign. I don't want Nick involved. Let me do my own thing. Could it be Dable? Could it be Daniel? Could it be someone else? Oh, and by the way, Ravens fans, I wouldn't mind Greg Roman, a lifer offensive coordinator who did wonders with Lamar and Colin Kaepernick. But thank you guys for tuning in this week to Sideline to Sideline. I'm in the NFL Genius, Sheen Waltek. He's not guarding the 2, he's guarding the 3 at Sprite Guard EP. And the Prince of Production, he's passion, he's precision, he's Kyle Edwards. And we are signing out.